Hi, I'm William Malik, and I'm here with a bit of security for the 29th of April, 2025. We're on the road at the RSA conference, and a couple of conversations brought to light something I wanted to explore a bit. We're going to take a look at AI, but we're taking a somewhat broader view, and I'm going to approach it from the perspective of literary criticism. In his book, How to Read and Why, the author and scholar Harold Bloom said that if you read carefully, if you read thoughtfully, you'll be able to avoid the four great myths of literature. The first great myth of literature is the idea of the death of the author, that somehow when an author dies, that his work, her work, loses meaning. Of course, this is nonsense, and yet some people think that, a dead poet doesn't speak to us the way that a living rap artist might. They both have equal validity, folks. The second great myth is the notion that literary characters are just lines on a page. Now, this follows from the first. I mean, if the meaning disappears the moment the author stops breathing, then what do we got? We just got a bunch of words. And so it's easy to kind of dismiss that. But the reality is, if you have colleagues, associates, friends who are deeply devout, they may view the actions and thoughts of, say, Saul and David or Peter and Jesus as more real and relevant to their lives than the actions and thoughts of people who live three doors down the street. Literary characters can have a tremendous and long, impactful meaning impact to our lives. The third great myth of literature, which flows from the first two, is that human character is a fiction. This is especially dangerous because if you believe the first two, you can fall prey to the third. And once you believe that, people can talk you into doing anything. Which brings us to the fourth and most dangerous myth, which is that language does the thinking for us. In other words, any sentence that is grammatically correct is and rhetorically compelling is somehow self-evidently true. But you'll notice that good authors often violate that. When Tolstoy wrote Anna Karenina, the first sentence begins, "Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." Striking, thought-provoking, emotionally evocative. But if you stop and think about it, if you spent time in a truly happy relationship, you know that every moment is rich and special and unique and rewarding in its own way. And if you've been stuck in a truly unhappy situation, you quickly close down and realize that one day is just like another. The reality is that unhappy families are pretty much all the same, and happy families are unique. But Tolstoy inverts that in order to get us to think, initially to think about the story, but more importantly, to think about ourselves and our condition. Shakespeare does the same thing too. Who hasn't encountered the character of Polonus in Hamlet? Neither a borrower nor a lender be, and it follows as the night to day. And he drones on. He's not dispensing wisdom. He's a gas bag. He's a flatulating old man who is repeating ridiculous, sawed cliches and has no true wisdom to offer. He's a joke. He's meant to be a figure of ridicule. Shakespeare himself deserves an entire talk all on his own, but the reality is that Harold Bloom has done the work for us there in his book, Shakespeare, The Invention of the Human. The concept of irony and character was further explored by Kierkegaard, but what I want to do is I want to take this to AI. I'd like you to think about what AI does when it constructs something that looks like an English sentence. What it's giving you is a Polonus-like redaction of the average of all of the stuff that it's seen. There's no creative thinking there. There's no spark of human intent there. It is very much a consensus. It is very much typical. It is a very bad idea to build a business plan on raw AI-generated stuff. You need to take a look at what the AI is producing, and you need to decide, does this make sense? Is the conventional answer good enough for the project that I'm launching? Is the typical average response adequate when I'm going into battle against a strong competitor for a major account? Stop and think. And find an expert who can help you with that process. Find somebody who's been there, who's traveled the road, who can take a look at it and say, oh, that's nonsense. And here's why. And here's what you really need to do to master it. AI can help, but it's not ready to take over the steering wheel quite yet. And that's our bit of security for the 29th of April from RSA, San Francisco. I'm William Malik. Be safe.